Hello everyone, my name is Ankush Jain, and in this video I will show you how you can create an AWS Lambda layer for your Lambda function with Node.js. You will learn this with a hands-on demo where we will be creating a Lambda function to resize an image, and we will use the Lambda layer that we are going to create in this tutorial. Alright, so what we are going to cover in this video is we'll quickly understand what is a Lambda layer, then we'll see why we need to use Lambda layer. Alright, so let's have a look at what is a Lambda layer. So I will go to the AWS documentation directly here, and it says a Lambda layer is a zip file archive that contains supplementary code or data. That means a Lambda layer is nothing just a zip file which contains some files, code files, which is supplementary. It means that zip file or the code files will be used by your actual Lambda function. Layers usually contains library dependencies. This is the most important point. It means so whenever you are creating a Node.js application, you normally install npm packages, and those npm packages are get installed at node modules directory. So those node modules directory are essential. The code inside that is essential because that is a dependency. So if you have multiple lambda function they that are using same dependencies, then you can combine all those dependencies, create a zip file, and create an AWS Lambda layer, by combining all those dependencies. So with that, what would happen whenever you are deploying a new Lambda function, you don't have to deploy those dependencies along with your Lambda deployment package. Okay, we'll see how does it work, but yeah, this is the concept of Lambda layer. So you can see in this diagram as well, we have a function code here and we have put the dependencies in layer. So you can also have the dependencies in function, but if you have multiple functions and you don't want to send those dependencies again and again, because that would create your deployment package size, that would increase your deployment package size. So you will basically create a layer and just reference that layer. All right. Now, why we need to use layer? So there are multiple benefits of using layer. As I said, code reusability. So if you have multiple lambda functions, all those lambda functions are sharing certain a set of dependencies, then probably you can merge all those dependencies into layer, and then you can utilize same layer. Since you have created a layer, moved all the dependencies to that layer, now your deployment package size would get reduced because you don't have to ship those dependencies. They are already present in layer. And once your package size reduces, you will be able to deploy faster, because a smaller deployment package will lead to faster function updates. You don't have to ship a lot of code to your lambda function. Easier dependency management. If you have to make some changes in those dependencies, so you will just make changes in layer, and that change will get automatically get applied to all the functions. You don't have to kind of update all functions. You just have to update the layer, and it would happen, that would get applied across all the functions. Simplified function management. So you just have to need to write your own code. You don't have to worry about dependencies. So there are multiple benefits of using lambda layer, but these five were the most that I found very important, so I just mentioned here. Now one more thing, like, you will find the link of this page in the description below, so you can go there and be on the same page. All right, so now let's talk about why I needed to use lambda layer. What was the situation when I thought that I need to use a layer? So I was working on an application a few days back where I need to create a thumbnail out of images. So whenever a user uploads an image on S3 bucket, I want to create a thumbnail. So initially I just went ahead and created an Lambda function with TypeScript and CDK, and I installed Sharp, because Sharp is a library that I was using to convert images into thumbnails, and it is a high performance Node.js image processing library. So I just installed this package, I run the Lambda function locally, it worked, and then I deployed it, but it did not work on AWS Cloud. So then I went to search on Google and did some Stack Overflow, and I found that there is some issue and it would not work as is, because and the solution was to create a layer. So now I would talk about my reason why I it happened with me, and that is one of the reason you could create a Lambda layers. So if you go to sharp AWS Lambda, I will not click here. Instead, I will go installation. Sorry, yeah, here AWS Lambda. So it says the node modules directory of the deployment package. So whenever we create a Lambda function, we create a deployment package where we publish all those things. So the node modules directory of the deployment package must include binaries for either Linux 64, x64 or Linux ARM 64 platforms depending on the chosen architecture. So what was the problem when I was doing the development on my Windows machine and I was doing npm install? So what happens by default, uh, npm install will download the dependencies in node modules which are specific to my OS. So that is also mentioned here. At install time, the package manager will automatically select pre-built binaries for the current OS platform and CPU architecture. So my current OS is Windows and CPU architecture is Intel x86 64. So it will download those binaries in my node modules directory. And when I was deploying the Lambda function, so it will also package those binaries and deploy it to AWS Lambda. But since AWS Lambda for Node.js uses Amazon Linux environment, so that is a Linux environment, and the dependencies that were sent to the Lambda were Windows dependencies, so it was not working uh, because there was OS mismatch. So that was the reason Sharp was not working for me if I just ship my Windows dependencies to AWS Lambda. So the solution was to create a Lambda layer, and the solution was also to create a Lambda layer from the same environment, because when we create a Lambda function also runs in some compute, and that compute is something which is Amazon Linux machine. And now you should also create the Lambda layer for, I mean, I'm talking about my case. So had to create the Lambda layer from the same machine, from the same OS. So that's why that's what I will show you how I created that Lambda layer for my case. But I mean, that's not specific to this case. The steps that I'm going to cover in the next step, so that would be applicable for your use case as well. Okay, so now we have talked about what was the need I need to use Lambda layer. Now let's start creating a Lambda layer step by step. All right, so we'll just go here, and which is already open. So we have discussed what is a Lambda layer. Now have a look at prerequisite. So in order to create a Lambda layer, you need Node.js installed on your machine, you need npm package, and you need AWS CLI to publish the uh, Lambda layer to AWS. I'm not going to install these dependencies on my local host or local machine. Instead, I'm going to leverage AWS Cloud Shell. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use console, and we'll go here and we'll just click here Cloud Shell. And what it will do, it will basically start a Linux environment here on my browser, and that is backed with a virtual machine in background. So I'm going to use that. Now uh, moving to the second part, Node.js layer compatibility with Lambda runtime environment. So this is, I mean, nothing. So since you are creating, whenever you create a Node.js Lambda layer, so you have to specify, you should consider what runtime it is going to use. So we have to specify that, like, there are Node.js as of now the 20 is the latest. So if you see supported runtimes, uh, all right, so you see there are Node.js 2018. So if you have Node.js 20 based Lambda function, then you should create Lambda layer with Node.js 20. You should specify that runtime at that moment. All right, then now layer paths for Node.js runtime. So this is very important point. So whenever you create a layer, so as I said, a layer is nothing. It is a zip file where we have to put some dependencies. But for Node.js, it has to be in a structured way which has been defined here. So the layer should have a folder structure like this. First there should be a node.js folder, then there should be a node folder where x is will replace it with 20 because 20 is the latest node.js runtime, and there would be node modules folder. So we have to create a structure like this, then we have to create a zip file of this and create a lambda layer. So you should remember this. Then packaging the layer content. So I will not follow this tutorial further, instead I will move to the steps that I have noted down here. So we have covered all these points. Now I have opened AWS Cloud shell. Now I will run this command uname -m here. So I will just bring it here and I will just paste it here. And why I am running it? To show you. So there are two types of OS architecture. One is ARM 64 and another is x86 64, which is Intel based. So our cloud shell, this machine is Amazon Linux machine. OS is our Linux. Architecture is x86 64. Why I am telling you it? Because when we will create a new lambda function, we have to specify this architecture. So we want to be in sync with that. So it should not be like here we are using x86 and there we are going to create an ARM based lambda function. So yeah, now we have to create. So what we are going to do now, we'll create a new directory sharp layer and we'll install sharp package there. Okay, sharp is, as I said, is a image processing library. So what I will do, I will just go to my root cd and you will see I'm on root where all these files are present. Now what I will do, I will run this commands sudo mkdir sharp layer to create a new directory. So we'll have to use sudo here, otherwise it will not create because we would need permissions. So I have created a new directory. Now if I do ls, you can see a sharp layer directory has been created here on the root. Now I will move inside sharp layer directory. So I will just go here, paste. I'm inside sharp layer directory and I will run this sudo npm init -y. -y means it won't ask any further question and it will initialize a node.js project. So now it has created a new uh, package JSON file and it has created a new project here. So now if I do ls, you will see there is a package JSON file has been created. As of now there are no packages, but it has created. Now I will clean it and then I will basically install sharp package inside this sharp layer. I am inside sharp layer directory, so I will install npm install sharp with administrative permission sudo. So it is installing the sharp library. All right, the sharp library is installed. Now I will do ls. You will see there are three files: node modules, two files and one folder: node modules, package json and package log json. All right, and if you go to node modules and you do ls, you will find all these files, like which are basically the dependencies of sharp. Okay, so we have installed sharp library in and node modules, all the things here. So we'll go to root again and I will just clear it. So I'm now on root. So next thing what we have to do, we have to create a lambda layer zip. And as I said, it should have uh, a structure like this, where it is this. Okay, node.js, then node 20, then node modules. So what we'll do, we are on the root, we will create a directory like this. So we are going to create a directory node.js and then a subdirectory node 20, which is where 20 is our version. So we'll just go here and then create it. And why I'm adding -p, because we are creating two directory, one directory and inside another directory, that's why -p is needed. So if I do ls, you can see the node.js directory has been created here, and if I go further I would also see node 20. Now what we are going to do, we are going to run this command, and what it will do, it will basically go to the sharp layer, because I am on the root, and I am, if I run this, I will copy the content of sharp layer slash node modules to Node.js Node 20. So basically, I will copy all the node modules into this directory with this command. So I will go and run this command here. Okay, I have copied all the node modules here. Now finally, what I will do, I will run this command where I will create a zip file of this node.js folder. Okay, this node.js folder, yeah. But before that, you want, if you would like to see what is there, whether the copy has been successful or not, so we'll go here in node.js node 20 and we'll do ls, and you can see all the node modules have been copied here. Okay, earlier this was empty, so I will go back to the root and we'll run this command sudo zip -r layer content. So the layer content zip would be the new zip file, and node.js is something, is this folder which is going to be converted into zip file. It has created a zip file. Now if I remove all this and do ls, so you can see a layer content zip file is created. So your lambda layer has been created, that's all. So similarly, you can, I mean, I'm creating a lambda layer for sharp dependencies, but if you have another dependency, ffmpeg or any other library that you want to add as a dependency, then you can just follow the similar steps. In the fifth step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is the CLI command to publish the layer. And here we are going to publish the layer. We are naming the layer as node sharp layer, and the zip file is something this, and compatible runtimes. So node.js 20.x, which is compatible runtime. This is the architecture I was talking about. There are two versions, x86 64 and arm. And if I go here, sorry, you can also find this command here somewhere if you follow this uh, this documentation, uh, where it is. Yeah, I copied this command from here. All right, so now I will move here. So I will just copy this command and go here and run it. So I will just paste it. It is a multi-line, so it is asking. I will paste and I will hit enter, and it should create a lambda layer now. So I'm waiting. So it has created a lambda layer, and you can see, yeah, we got this. Now we'll have to check it. So we'll go to the lambda and we'll check there. So we have, okay, it is opening. We go here inside layers. So you can see a node sharp layer is created here, and this is the layer version 6, sorry, version 1 x86 33 seconds ago. So it is the one that we created recently, and our layer has been created. And if you want to see what is there, you can download the content here and kind of see and unzip it. So I will go here and extract all. So I can see this is the node.js directory, then node 20, and then node modules, and here all the all the files of sharp. So you, and this, these binaries which is included here or maybe inside sharp, so all those binaries are linux compatible, so that won't work on windows, and windows binaries won't work on linux. All right, so we have created our layer. So now how would we test whether this layer is working or not? So I have created a lambda function with the help of chat gpt. What it is doing, it is just create, it is an image resizer function. So it is referencing the sharp library, and it is, you know, converting an image into uh, width or height which we are going to provide. So by default it would convert into 300 pixels, both width and height, and will provide us the base 64 as output here. All right, so you can just copy this code from here and you can also deploy this lambda function. Now what we are going to do, we will go here and I will just go here, close this, and I will go and close this as well. And here I will create a new lambda function and I will name it image resizer. Now I'm selecting x86 64 because our layer is also compatible with this architecture. execution role, I will use an existing role because I have already created lambda, what is it, testing, yeah. So this is the I mean this lambda execution role has similar permissions which you will get when you click this, but since I create a lot of lambda for testing purpose, I don't create a new role every time, so I have created one that I use frequently. All right, so now I will create a function. So this function is created. Now what we are going to do, we are just going to copy the code. So this code is, I'm going to grab it from here, we'll go and paste it. And you can notice one thing, this is using one dependency which is part of Node.js runtime, which is already available on Lambda function. Another is sharp. This is an external or third party dependency which we have not added here. So if we run this function now, it would fail because it would not find this dependency. So I will deploy it and now I would test it. Okay. And we'll see it would fail. I mean, it should fail, but yeah, it will fail. So this is the image and okay, this is the test function. And if you go here on this image, which is something which I have taken from Google, this is a AWS reinvent image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke this lambda function, and you see it has failed. It says that cannot find package sharp because sharp is not there. There's a single file and that doesn't has, there is no dependency. Now what we are going to do, we are going to add a layer. So we'll go here and click on this layer, and we'll go on the right, add a layer, select custom layer. Here select node sharp layer that we created, version select 1, click add. I'm not sure if we don't select any version, it always fall back to the latest one, but that's something that you have to check the documentation. We have added a layer. Now the function is ready. So what we are going to do, we are going to test it again, and with the same function, sorry, same code. So here we have image URL. I guess we have uh, the height and width as well. So if we could pass, so event.image URL, event.width, event.height. So if we select width here, so we can select, sorry, comma, width. So it would basically, I would like to have 400 as a width, and as a height I would like GST height, I would like to have 200. All right, so I will add a comma here. Okay, all good. Now I'm going to test this image, and those are optional. Height, width, if you don't provide, you will get 300 by 300 image. And the lambda, I mean this call has been successful, and we have got the 200 response and the base 64 of the image. Now you might thinking, how would you verify that it is the similar image? So I have a solution for that as well. So since this is a base 64 image, you just have to copy this and add it here and just paste it here, and replace this xxx part with your response. Now this response is too big, so we'll just have to select from here and to the bottom, till the bottom, till here. I will copy it, I will paste it, and I will just hit enter. And you can see my image has been converted from this to this 400 by 200. And if I just don't provide the dimensions, it would convert it into 300 by 300. So that's how you have seen like how you can create a lambda without opening Visual Studio Code. You can all do it all in your AWS Cloud shell, and once the lambda layer is deployed, you can just grab the ARN and use the ARN, put the ARN in your environment variable and kind of use it to connect or to attach with your lambda function. Now one thing I would like to call out here is the bundling. So since I have just created the lambda function with one code here, but you might be doing writing it in TypeScript, and uh, when you are deploying it with CDK, then you might also be using some bundler like Webpack or ES build. So in that case, what would happen? You will install Sharp as a dependency, but as a dev dependency on your machine. Now, what would happen once you install it as dev dependency? You won't get compile time issues. You will get IntelliSense, but that dependency will is not added into dependencies array, so that would not be published when you when you know this is going to be bundled. Or what you could do is you could basically add as a dependency, but you have to kind of notify your ES build to exclude that sharp as a dependency, so that when it is going to create a bundle, it would not include sharp, because you know that it is already present as a layer uh, on AWS Cloud. So that is one thing that you have to keep in mind, and you might play with it, and make sure that sharp is not getting again shipped with your local dependency. All right, and one more reference is this, which I have provided here. So this is another blog where you could learn how to create Lambda. That is another way they are using AWS same, but the one that I have covered provides you, or you know mm, kind of teaches you the fundamentals of how to create lambda function layer. So once you understand the fundamentals, you would be able to create layers with AWS same CLI or AWS CDK as well. So I hope this video is helpful to you, and thank you very much for watching. And you can also subscribe my channel for more AWS content. Thank you very much.